Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Earthly Headlines. Today we're going to revisit some stuff in Beringia and the time of the last glacial maximum before the Younger Dryas, so about between like 28,000 to 19,000 years ago, around there. The reason why I visit it is because there has been new evidence that has come to light. For people who don't know too much about peopling of the North Americans or the North Americas, there's two basic camps. There's two camps or schools of thought. One is more of a geneticist background, and one is more from the archaeological background. The archaeological evidence, if you go strictly by that and you don't take the genetics involved, they think that there was a distinct population of people that originated from Asia and passed through Beringia. This is like maybe right after the last glacial maximum and right before the Younger Dryas, around like 14,000 to 15,000 years ago. And they did this, what they call the quick peopling, the fast peopling of North America, where within those 14,000 or less than 14,000 years, these people who were an offshoot population of Asia went straight through into North America and South America and populated it with the Native Americans that we know about today. The genetic evidence, though, is a little bit different. They think that there was a subset of people that did come from Asia, but they stayed in Beringia a little bit further back, like almost 30,000 years ago at the very least. And that's what the genetic evidence shows, that these people, there was some sort of, their genetics got locked, but they got landlocked, or something happened where they were cut off. These people in Beringia were cut off from the people from Asia, and they had to their genetics were essentially isolated in Beringia. And then after the last glacial maximum, when sea levels rose, all that supposed archaeological evidence that is missing, that the archaeologists say that there is no archaeological evidence in Beringia of people having lived there, having long-term settlements there. And the geneticists respond with, well, it's all underwater now, so what evidence is left? So this is basically the context of what's going on. Yeah, so this is how this article from Forbes, by the way, prefaces their article. They set this up. So they say genetic evidence has unambiguously showed that the first peoples of Americas were descended from a group of people who were themselves descended from East Asians. So these are the ancient Beringians that some people call, and ancient North Eurasians, so people from Siberia, before becoming isolated from gene flow for a period of time beginning around 23,000 and 20,000 years ago. So here's this map. As you can see, to the east is Siberia, and then all this stuff in the brown, this is Beringia when it was above sea level, and the dark brown is what it looks like now. So there's the Yukon River here, and these people became genetically isolated from the people in Asia, the East Asians rather. And another interesting map is this. So this was Beringia in July during the last glacial maximum. It doesn't say exactly what year, but you guys know the range, which is around 18,000 to 21,000, 18,000 years ago. And it was about, in a lot of places, 15 degrees Celsius in on average. So if there were going to be people living here, this would be pretty ideal for them to have settlements. And according to the geneticists and geologists and some people of that ilk, they agree. They say, yeah, this is probably what happened. And if it were to happen, I mean, this supports it. It would have supported some sort of population here. Yeah, and here's just another angle of what it looked like. So here's California, like North America, and here's the Laurentide and the Cordilleran ice sheet where they meet here, and this is the ice-free corridor, this little slab of green. And then if you go further north, this is Alaska, and then the land bridge. And then here, and when you go further up, if you look at the top image here, that's Siberia, and then further is East Asia. So 24.9 thousand years ago, divergence between Siberians and Proto-Native Americans. So this is where the waters get muddied, right? And then they say that the Native American founder lineages branched off 18.4 thousand years ago. So here's a cool map too, of showing the entire world in the at the last glacial maximum, the entire Earth rather. So you guys can see there's Sunda land here, which is now Indonesia, and then New Guinea was connected to Australia. Yeah, you guys can see there's a lot more land here. In Europe too, the British Isles were connected to the mainland. So this isolation that took place has become a sticking point between the two camps, and geneticists are very insistent about this because this position has been strengthened by evidence that keeps coming out. Part of the reason why they think that there was this isolation in the ancient Beringians is there's paleoecological data that's come out. So it shows that refugia is what they call basically people who were separated, population that were separated from another bigger population that was warmer, just like this image I showed you earlier, and more hospitable to life than most of southern Siberia. So they think that Siberia got so cold that people either went back toward Asia and East Asia and the steppes or whatever, wherever this part of the world was, because this is Siberia, or they went further east, or their east rather, to Beringia. And that shows in the genetics. You can see that it's kind of like a timekeeping device, right? When you look at DNA, you can see that, oh yeah, they were at some point in time, the genetics are they stop at a certain point. There's a marker that's indicative of some sort of physical barrier or climatological barrier that stop people from moving from one place to another at that point in time in Siberia. Archaeological evidence for this model is limited, like I said. A lot of it's underwater. The only Last Glacial Maximum era human occupation site are the Bluefish Caves in northern Yukon, which is in Canada. And the bones there date 27,700 years ago and may have human cut marks on them, but that's disputed by archaeologists as well. But although archaeologists do say that there's abundant evidence of pre-LGM people living in Western Beringia, so before there were people, but not after, which is interesting because, again, it's underwater, so unless you have some hardcore scuba guys who are like Jacques Cousteau type people going down there, which I think the waters there are notoriously dangerous, very, very, very cold, obviously. So I think that might explain why there have been a lack of maritime archaeology, marine archaeology rather, in that area. It could also be because those regions sank beneath the wave. This lack of evidence has led to some archaeologists to prefer hypotheses of a swift peopling. Yeah, that's what I was talking about before. So they, within 15,000, almost less than 10,000 years, there were people in the Andes, and all those people from the South and North America and Central America all came from this group in a very short amount of time. And remember, this is all mainstream narrative, like mainstream archaeology, mainstream genetics. This doesn't even include the hypothesis that there were people coming down from the Tierra del Fuego, from the southern tip of South America, from Australia and the Polynesian Islands and stuff like that. So that theory is not mentioned at all in here, just for future reference of people who are going to comment about that. So this new study, let's just talk about the new study. So they analyzed sediment cores taken from Lake E5 in the Brooks Range on the north slope of Alaska. So here's Beringia, and then Alaska is up here. So right along the Bering Strait is this right here. See, this was not affected by the glacier at the time. So this lake was still a lake back then. So that means the sediments are a record of the conditions during that time. So they drilled cores and they found two interesting results. One, they found an increase in charcoal particles in sediments dating between 32,000 and 19,000 years ago. Now that's kind of a big gap, but still there's something or someone burning charcoal at the time. And the reason why they think they can't distinguish what fires were natural and what weren't, but historically there were low amounts of lightning in the region at the time, so it'd be unlikely to find any charcoal saved up next to the lake. And also the fires burning were within a few kilometers of the lake as well, so they think that there probably were artificial fires made by people, which the realm of possibility, because fire was, I think, goes back a long time, well over 150,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago or something like that. The second thing which is brought to my attention were fecal biomarkers. So these things are called stanols, which are recoverable from soil, and they allow the identification of all the different types of animals that were in that location at the time. So they find all kinds of different fecal matter, obviously, or these biomarkers, and they used it to identify humans. So that doesn't mean the humans were settling on the lake. They just went there regularly to, in quote, defecate there. So they went to this place. It was like a bathroom, I guess, or some sort of known place where either a settlement there or a nearby settlement that might be submerged now, they went to go do their due there. So Vachula, by the way, who's one of the heads in this study, identified fecal stanol profiles consistent with the periodic presence of humans in the vicinity of the lake between 31,000 and 22,000 years ago. And then after 18,000 years ago, which coincides with the greater archaeological visibility of human occupation throughout Alaska, the biomarkers indicate a consistent presence. So between this period of 31,000 and 22,000 years ago, there was, although not super consistent, there was sporadic and periodic presence of humans. So that might be indicative of people coming and going in that area. I mean, it's a really ancient lake, so there might have been some reason why a person or a group of people were attracted to that body of water. You know, people are attracted to bodies of waters for all kinds of reasons. And if there was human presence, which I think is pretty undisputed now, there definitely was a human presence there, then that kind of confirms this this evidence of early human presence in Eastern Beringia, not Western, but Eastern Beringia, the submerged part, from 32,000 years ago and onward, throughout the Last Glacial Maximum, and then beyond 18,000 years ago, right up into the Younger Dryas. This is just another piece of evidence, or two pieces of evidence that have been reported. And the last time I did a video about this, which was almost 5 months ago, I said the same thing. There's probably going to be a consistent stream of evidence coming out, because I know that they are doing all kinds of sediment cores, digging. Even some parts they are doing some marine archaeology and diving down into those really frigid waters, and trying to find what they can. I did not know that there was a lake up there, like a primordial lake almost, and they were extracting data from that. So that's really interesting. So let me know what you guys think about this, about the peopling, swift peopling, which was a very attractive model for its time. But I think with the advent of genetics, it's just telling a whole new story. And you can't really deny the fact that there was something that happened that isolated that Beringian population. And they saw that in the genetics, and then it's very interesting that it coincides with the last glacial maximum, when Siberia would have been damn near inhabitable. So those people at the time had to move. And this map is very interesting because it was pretty warm. This would be an ideal place to go to if you were part of the Siberians who didn't go back to East Asia. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.